Welcome, everybody. Anybody here for the first time? Welcome. Welcome back, everyone else. Welcome to anybody online joining us for the first time. I've been in a series on these Monday nights of the Buddha's teachings on emotional intelligence and what we call the heart practices, and the appropriate, the wise, the intelligent, the enlightened response to life. And the three, we're on the fourth tonight. It's a list of 4 practices and teachings. The first 3 were loving kindness and compassion and equanimity. And tonight, the teaching is on appreciative joy or empathetic joy. And we'll do some meditation and have some discussion. I like to begin by asking you to talk to each other in the service of building community, getting to meet some other meditators and make some connections and build some community. The core of this teaching is learning and having the experience of empathizing with the happiness of others. Actually experiencing a genuine feeling of I'm happy with you. I'm happy for you. In some ways, this is the opposite of jealousy and envy, when somebody else is getting what you want and you feel like, fuck them. How dare they get what I want? The enlightened response, which is, I'm happy for you getting what I want, getting what you want. And I'll talk more about this later, but for empathetic joy, appreciative joy to be wholesome and authentic, the source of happiness needs to be a wholesome source of happiness, or joy that is well-earned and appropriate. And so you don't want to kind of think about like being happy for people who have are like a sadist that's causing harm but super stoked about it. You're not like, oh, I'm so happy for you, you fucking sadist. It's only for like wholesome sources of happiness. Even if materialism comes to your mind. Just before class, Ramage was talking about the lottery and what if I won $1 billion? And so like, if you think that billionaires are happy, first of all, probably mistaken, but also even a billionaire that is pretty stoked about being a billionaire, but earned that money in unwholesome ways that caused a lot of harm to others, that was based in dishonesty or manipulation or, corporate, whatever it was that got all of that money. You don't want to be happy for someone who's created a whole bunch of negative karma for themselves in the process of obtaining that materialism or whatever it was. So thinking for a moment before we go into the small groups, and this is sort of a reflection, meditative reflection. When was the last time you felt happy for someone else? Or reflect on it, come up with an example in your mind when somebody in your life or had an experience that brought them joy or success, or a spiritual experience, or experience of recovering, experience of forgiveness. This doesn't have to be sense pleasure or material joy, but sometimes it's just like, wow, I got a bit more free from something I was holding on to. So think about that, and then in the small groups, share with each other an example of you feeling happy for someone else. And that's what we're going to practice tonight, and that's what we're going to discuss after the practice. So find a group of 2 or 3 and take a minute or 2. Don't give a long story, to just share an experience of feeling happy for someone else. The context of this teaching is the Buddha saying this is what remains when the heart and mind are enlightened. When the mind is freed from greed, clinging and craving and attachment, and when the mind and heart are freed from hatred and resentment and being identified with the afflictive emotional states of anger and fear. When the mind is free from delusion, the delusion of permanence or a permanent self. He said, all that remains, the enlightened qualities, the awakened qualities of a heart free from ignorance and confusion, is loving kindness for all living beings and compassion for all living beings and appreciation, appreciative joy. And compassion and appreciative joy are both experiences of empathy, of feeling connected to, feeling with, attunement. And compassion is attunement to pain and saying, like, I care about your pain. I care about my pain. I care about the pain in the world. And appreciation, sympathetic, appreciative joy, is saying, oh, it's not all pain here. There's all of this beauty and love and connection and joy to attune to. And that the awakened heart, the awakened mind, has that balanced ability to meet both, not get so focused only on the pain and the suffering and the necessity of compassion. I know that I'm guilty as a person and as a Dharma teacher of focusing mostly on the suffering. But this is one of the teachings where the Buddha said, well, you know, yes, of course, there's all this suffering. That's what we're doing. We're trying to end suffering. That's what the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path are about. And what happens is then you wake up to, it's not all suffering. There's joy and sorrow. There's pleasure. There's gain. There's all kinds of wonderfully pleasant and wholesomely pleasant, not just sense pleasures and materialism, but spiritual pleasure that happens, wholesome, awakened states in the heart and mind. And one of these is the attunement and the empathy with the happiness of others. And part of what is, I believe, is happening here is when we break our self-centered I, me, mine, am I happy? Am I getting what I want? And we start to open up to our sort of interconnected, being part of community, being part of society, being part of the planet. And we say, like, oh, it's not just about my happiness all of the time, but I have all of these opportunities to enjoy your happiness. Rather than that self-centered fear that feels threatened by other people's happiness, that opportunity to say, actually, I really enjoy it when people are experiencing joy or experiencing happiness or experiencing. And that's a natural, enlightened heart quality that most of us don't have. There's a reason why jealousy and envy and covetousness and are on all of the kind of normal religious lists, because to feel threatened by other people's happiness, to feel jealous, to feel envy, to covet is, I think, more natural to our instinctual drives than to feel appreciative and celebratory and empathetic towards other people's happiness. So there's a practice to break our self-centeredness by focusing on learning to appreciate and attune to and enjoy the happiness of others. And that is what the sympathetic joy meditation practice traditionally is. I have a little bit of a non-traditional approach to it, I think, because traditionally yourself is not included. It is all beings and you're part of all beings. But I feel like it's really important for most of us. It's been really important for me to learn to experience joy in our own lives, not just externally towards others, but to include yourself and to focus on yourself. May I be happy. That first phrase of the traditional loving kindness is actually a appreciative joy. May you be happy is the traditional. May all beings experience happiness and success. Of course, well-earned, appropriate, not talking about material, not talking about delusional forms of happiness, but wholesome forms of happiness, appropriate, wise forms of happiness. So I put a lot of emphasis on also focus on ourselves. May I be happy. May I experience joy. May I learn to experience joy. May I Learn to experience joy with non-attached appreciation. Because half of our suffering comes from clinging and craving to pleasant states, even the wholesome ones. Even, I don't know how many of you had this experience yet, probably a lot of you, where you have a really deep meditation, really pleasant, wonderful, insightful, spiritual experience. And then you spend years craving for that experience, clinging to it, craving for it, turning what was a really wonderful experience into suffering, into something that you're attached to and something that you're craving to reproduce, rather than being like, oh, that was a really beautifully impermanent insight that I have. It's not here now, but it was awesome. Rather than I need to, I was sitting like this and I was breathing and then I did these, and like trying to always reproduce the pleasant experience because of that craving for it. Non-attached appreciation of the pleasant, of the joy as it arises and passes, remembering the impermanent nature of everything. Now, it does feel like impermanence is the central reality that we live in. And it feels like it's such good news when life is painful. This too shall pass. Thank fucking God. When it's hard, so grateful for impermanence. None of us would trade impermanence because life is difficult often enough that we're like, I'm so glad that it passes. But when life is wonderful, when there's pleasure, when there's joy, when something is really, appropriately enjoyable, then it's bad news. Oh shit, this isn't going to last. This too shall pass. This wonderful connection, experience, meal, sensual, spiritual, meditative moment is arising and passing. It's not going to last. It's not a permanent experience, any emotional experience arising and passing. Spiritual experience arising and passing. I guess ultimately, the realization of nirvana is the only thing that's not impermanent. The third noble truth is the promise that it is possible to attain a wisdom that is lasting, that is trustworthy. And so much of that nirvana, third noble truth, wisdom, is that you will understand impermanence so much that you won't cling anymore. And that you will permanently understand impermanence so much that you won't cling anymore. You'll be able to meet all of the joy with non-attached appreciation. Not just yours, everyone else's too. Be able to meet all of the pain in the world with compassion. Not just everyone else's, yours too. Compassion for all beings, appreciation for all beings. And the equanimity that understands. Last week we talked about equanimity that understands no matter how much appreciative joy, no matter how much compassion, everyone has their own karma, and we can't make anybody else be happy. We can't take away anybody else's suffering, only our own. We can support and encourage and influence each other and all of those good relational abilities that we have, but we don't have control over anybody else's internal relationship to pleasure and pain and self-centeredness, the causes of suffering. So said more than I needed to say, but let's meditate and then we'll have some more discussion about it. So find a way to sit that's relaxed, upright. As you settle into your posture and you take this sitting practice, bring a smile to your lips. Put your body in the posture of happiness, of appreciation. Just a little half smile. Fake it. It's okay. Feels sort of weird, but even just smiling can brighten the heart. Begin by establishing mindfulness in the body, releasing any tension, Present time awareness here with your mind, your body, your heart. Tuning into your current emotional experience. What kind of mood is present in your heart and mind? Sadness, joy, anxiousness, excitement, grief. Imagine breathing in and out of your heart center as we reflect on joy. Connect with the natural part that we all share that wishes to be happy, that is seeking contentment, well-being, longing for liberation, for freedom from suffering, for joy and happiness in our life. This universal, natural part of the human condition, desire to be happy. The meditative phrases, the traditional ones, are, may I be happy. May I experience joy. May the joy that I experience continue and increase. May it expand. Say this to yourself a few times in your own heart. May I be happy. May I experience joy. May the joy I experience continue and increase. May I be successful. Not just in the material world, but in the spiritual path. Developing more wisdom. whether these phrases feel authentic or are resonating, or if there's resistance or judgment of them, keep going, say it anyways. Create these neural pathways, these mind habits of turning towards joy, acknowledging it, acknowledging the desire for it. Now begin to open your heart and extend this wish to others. Start with the easy people in your life, people that are easy to appreciate. Attunement and empathy with their happiness, wishing for their happiness. May you be happy. May you experience joy. May the joy that you experience continue and increase. May you be successful. May you successfully heal, recover, awaken. Expand, include the people that you were in small groups with tonight. Include the people here in the room sitting next to you. That understanding, just as I wish to be happy, I know this is something that we share. I wish for your happiness. May you experience joy. May it continue and increase. May you have great success. May you accomplish all of the wholesome aspirations that you have, all of your wise intentions. Include the whole Sangha, include your whole community, your friends, your family, even the difficult people, difficult friends, difficult family members. Extend some sympathetic joy to them. May you be happy. May you experience joy. May you be successful. May you heal what needs to be healed. To experience the joy that's possible in this life. All beings, no matter how confused they have become, wish to be happy. The traditional form of this meditation is radiating appreciation from your heart in all directions, starting to the east, all the beings to the east of us, the young and old, the rich and poor, the wise and the confused. All beings experience joy. May the joy that they experience continue and increase. If you have a visual mind, you can imagine this waves of appreciation traveling throughout the city, throughout the state, throughout the country. Across the seas. And then the other direction to the west. All the beings to the west of us. The intention of sympathetic joy, appreciative empathy, connection. To the north and south. Widening circles, radiating a heart that understands there are 10,000 joys to be experienced in this life, in existence. You can shift the phrases to may all beings be happy. with the understanding that happiness comes from one's own actions, one's own wisdom, perhaps including the phrase, may all beings do what needs to be done to experience joy, and may that joy continue and increase. May all beings do what needs to be done to successfully accomplish the causes of happiness. For the last few minutes, just come back to your own heart, mind, body, life. Softening your belly, relaxing your jaw, your shoulders, opening your heart. And again, reflecting on the things in your life that bring you joy. The Buddha said there's 4 types of happiness: the sense pleasure happiness that we all like when things feel good. He said also there's the kind of happiness that is material, the things that we enjoy, possessions. So the higher forms of happiness is the happiness of blamelessness and debtlessness, not owing any amends to anybody, being wise in the eyes of being blameless in the eyes of the wise, living a life of integrity and honesty. For the last few minutes of this meditation, I'd like to invite you to not only reflect on what you're grateful for, what you appreciate, but to begin to say out loud into the room. If you're on Zoom, you can unmute to do this. And together we can practice appreciating the expressions that people enjoy. So you can just say it out. I know this is weird in a silent meditation. We're breaking the silence, keeping your eyes closed, but just expressing some of the things that you appreciate in your life that bring you joy. It can be people, it can be experiences.
I feel joy when Phil laughs.
Burritos. Hip hop from 93 to 96.
The Grateful Dead.
Art.
The Thai forest tradition.
Pinball machines.
Ping pong.
Harley Davidsons and Cadillacs.
Surfing.
Parliament Funkadelic.
The color of Sebastian's car.
Dogs and chocolate.
Let yourself smile and appreciate and connect to that which you enjoy and that which brings joy to others. Even if it's the Grateful Dead.
Black Sabbath.
Letting go of the expression, tuning into the feeling, and accepting yourself just as you are in this moment, whether you really feel connected and appreciative or the judging mind is covering the empathetic heart, that's okay. Just accepting right now, it's like this. When you're ready, allowing your eyes to be open. And I got one more short meditation practice, sort of meditation. And I'm hesitant to do it because I think it's really embarrassing, but there's a practice of doing laughing meditation, where you just fake laugh. And then by fake laughing, it sort of brings up that feeling of joy, and then you're sort of laughing at other people's laughs. And anyways, we're going to do a short one. People do these laughing meditations for like 30 minutes where like they just fake laugh out loud. And I'm like, after like 3 minutes, I'm exhausted. But okay, please join me in fake laughing. Fake laughing. See, you already started. So you just it's hard. It's fucking oh. All right. All right, that's good. Good job. Good job, everybody. Good job. Good job. I appreciate. Thanks for playing along. I know that's brutally, painfully happy. So many opportunities to try to practice being attuned to not only what we're feeling and developing so much of the mindfulness, the Vipassana meditation, the core teachings and practices that I offer and that we do is about ending suffering. And when you end suffering, what remains is joy. Joy and sorrow. There's, of course, there's still going to be some pain, but that easy a way to connect with the emotions, the sensations, the experience that's happening, and respond appropriately. And if it's painful, then compassion's the wise and appropriate response. But when it's not painful, when it's joyous, when it's happiness, when it's pleasant, attuning, training the mind to not quickly ignore it, but to appreciate it. I read a long time ago some neuroscience study about how the part of our mind that experiences and remembers pleasure is like Teflon for some reason. Pleasure just slides right off. The mind doesn't cling to it, doesn't that's not always true. Sometimes we spend a lot of our life trying to reproduce pleasant experiences, but on some level, the mind doesn't hold on to pleasure. It just comes and goes. And the part of the mind that experiences pain is like Velcro, like it's sticky. There's just something about our painful experiences. So it's easy to get, focused on and think like, oh, my life is painful all of the time, because that's what my mind tells me. And, this term negativity bias. The mind has a bias towards painful, unpleasant experiences. So this is one of the practices to balance the mind, because the mind left to its own devices is imbalanced, is unwise and imbalanced. And these practices say, like, actually, there is lots of joy. Let me look for it. Let me turn towards it. Let me embrace it. Let me learn to appreciate it. Now, maybe some people go too far into, chasing joy and chasing bliss and having a sort of false perspective that, like people, they're like, it's all good all of the time. And it's like, it's just not true. It's not all good. There's a balance. The Chinese Buddhists, they say 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows is the realistic expectation. But if we look at our lives, are we having joy half of the time? Do you get 50% joy? Maybe some of you feel like you get more than 50% joy. And the more liberated you become and the more tolerant towards pain and less aversive towards pain and compassionate towards pain, then actually it makes more and more room for joy and for appreciating it and breaking I said earlier, I feel like one of the main functions of breaking our selfish, self-centered I, me, mine, the Buddha's teaching on anatta, not self, coming to understand that this whole human experience isn't so personal. Your mind is not your fault. Your emotions are not your fault. It's just what it's like to have a human body and heart and mind. It's universal. It's not that personal. And the more we wake up to that, the less we are so focused on, am I getting what I want? And start to focus on, I'm not always getting what I want. That's okay. Are you getting what you want? Can I appreciate? Can I celebrate? Can I, all of these opportunities in our life to celebrate each other and appreciate each other. There's a refuge recovery meeting that started online, and it became a kind of tradition within that meeting that after people said something about their recovery, the whole meeting would chime in. They'd be like, fuck yeah. Be like, I didn't drink today. Fuck yeah. I did whatever. Fuck yeah. Which is, I don't think that it was so intentionally this, but it is this experience of celebrating each other, appreciating each other. I'm happy for you. Fuck yeah. You're staying sober, you're meditating, you're healing, having that easy congratulations towards each other rather than like, yeah, fucking good job, you didn't drink, idiot. Shouldn't have been drinking anyways, kook. Negative tendency that so many of our minds would have. So maybe I'll shift a little bit. Does this teaching make sense? Empathize with not just other people's pain, but also with their happiness. Express it, feel it. A couple of friends that are here tonight said that they just finished this practice that my father created called A Year to Live. And Jeff, who's my co-host and colleague, it just started, and probably some of you are in this practice. He's starting a group. They just finished a group. It's a practice of, if you only had 1 year to live, how would you live? What do you need to look at in your life? If you were going to die 12 months from today, what is unfinished in your life? And I did, and I think this book came out in 1996 or 1997, and I did it right when it came out that first year. I think it was 97 maybe. And I've done it a few times and led it a few times. But one of the reason I bring it up is because one of the big transformative takeaways from me from that practice was he talks about, if you were dying, what would you need to say? What would you need to express in order to die with a sort of clean slate? He called it finishing business. What unfinished business do you have? And so part of that reflection is, what amends do I need to make? If I only have a few months to live, who do I need to forgive? Who do I need to make amends to? Now, I came into that practice with about 10 years of recovery at that time. And so I'd already done my 9th step amends and had focused quite a bit on asking for forgiveness and doing forgiveness meditation and making amends. But the flip side of that I hadn't done so much, was he said, also on your deathbed, you may regret not having expressed appreciation. It's not just the resentments that you will be sitting with on your deathbed. You'll also be like, fuck, I never really sincerely thanked and expressed appreciation to some of the people that helped me, that I appreciate so much, but I sort of took them for granted. I forgot to say thank you. I forgot to tell them how much I love them and how much I appreciated them. And so taking this meditation of appreciation and actually reflecting on the possibility of, are there things left unsaid? Or maybe not said recently, you know, that sure, I said thank you 20 years ago, but, you know, I'd like to revisit that gratitude. I'm reflecting on this, and I'd like to, especially if you were dying soon, of like, I don't want to go without saying thanks again. Saying I appreciate you, appreciate the help, the support, the inspiration, the encouragement, whatever it was that we're feeling grateful for. So taking the meditation into an action, and some of you are doing the Year to Live, and you'll do that this year. For the rest of you, I encourage you just to consider this as a practice, like to reflect on your life and to consider doing a list of appreciation of the people. You know, in recovery, there's a tradition of doing gratitude lists, but like an actual people list, like you would an amends list. It's not who do you owe amends to, but who would you like to remember to appreciate in your life? I find it really powerful. So that's one of the things that I was thinking of with this practice. And then the other part of it for, you know, that comes to mind for me is that so much of this practice is about joy, and not all of us are really good at having joy, and the importance of laughing and playing. And I think spiritual people can often get a little serious. So many of us come from so much wounded, suffering place. The only reason we're here is because we're fucking desperate to not suffer. And we're not that good at having fun, some of us, because we're just here to try to heal. And, you know, the pain has, you know, that led to our addiction or led to whatever suffering it is. And it's really important to intentionally practice being playful, being humorous, being silly, doing fucking laughing, ridiculous things like we just did. So that our, you know, we talk about enlightenment and it seems so serious, like I'm going to get enlightened. It's nice to actually just like think about lightening up. Lighten up, relax, you know, fucking just don't take yourself so seriously. Learn to laugh at yourself. Learn to laugh with others. When I was doing a teacher training course a long time ago, over 20 years ago, Buddhist teacher thing, and my teacher said, is there anything missing from Buddhism? And, you know, at this point, I'm a very serious Buddhist and doing lots of retreats. And is there anything for you missing from the teachings of the Buddha, from Buddhism? Anything that you find important in your life? This is a good question. Think about it for yourself. All I could come up with at the time, and really to this day, was a sense of humor. The Buddha's like, there's suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's a path to end suffering. Like, where's the fart jokes? Yeah. Where's the like, lighten up, Francis? Like fucking. And for me, it's really important because I can get a little tight and a little serious and a little uptight and self-righteous. And and that, kind of importance of experiencing joy and laughter and finding the appropriate community to joke with and to connect with and to laugh with and to play with. That same teacher at some point during that process said, Noah, you're taking this all a little too seriously, which I thought was strange from my spiritual teacher. He's like, yes, meditation and service. He's like, but you're in grad school, you're working at St. Quentin, you're volunteering at the harm reduction clinic, you're doing your internship, you're writing a book. He's like, you're doing retreats, you're working at Spirit Rock, you're doing all these things. Like, what are you doing for fun? Where is the playful, do you have a hobby? And I was like, I hadn't thought of hobbies. I thought about recovering and awakening and being of service. And he's like, it's especially becoming a teacher, you better have a source of joy. That's not just teaching. That's not just being of service to others. What do you want to do for fun in your life? And I ask you the same question, and I ask this question a lot to people. Like, what are you doing for joy that's not just the spiritual joy of awakening, but what are you doing just for fun? What's playful? What's fulfilling? What's, whether that's skating or surfing or skiing or motorcycles or, and then I came back to him and I said, I figured it out. I'm going to play poker. And he said, that's not what I was talking. Poker brings me joy. I think that's all I got for now. Any questions, comments, clarifications, or other things you'd like to talk about in this realm or any of the Buddha's teachings? Pick.
Noah, if you don't mind, I have a question on.
Give me a moment, Doug. If there was somebody in the room asking a question, then I'll call on you.
Oh, okay, of course.
So let me paraphrase it for the people at home that couldn't hear you. The end was the important part, the question was, can we strive for a life where there's not the ups and downs of joy and sorrow, and there's more just even keel? It's part of what equanimity is, and what we were talking about last week, and the perspective of equanimity, but even the definition of equanimity, which is that balanced response to the joy and sorrow, to the gain and loss, to the praise and blame, and to the fame and disrepute, this list of ups and downs. So it seems like the answer on some level is no. You can't live a life where there's not going to be pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, gain and loss. It's just the way it is in this world of impermanence. And with this kind of body and nervous system, sometimes it's just joyous. And if you meditate long enough, you'll start to have what the Buddha called sukha. Right? Dukkha is the word for suffering, and sukha is the term for having spiritual joy, where you'll be just out of your meditation, you'll just feel elated. You'll just feel happy. You'll just feel joyous for no reason, no sense pleasure, no material thing, no, just your heart open and your heart feeling like that, you know, kind of like you experienced on LSD. Maybe, I don't know, if you didn't have a bad trip. But a real kind of like open experience from no intoxicant, no sense pleasure, just a meditative heart opening, like, wow, this is really interesting. This is really amazing. And that does happen. It's part of the 7 factors of awakening. You experience rapture, you experience joy, you experience this spiritual happiness. So it seems like it's part of the package. Maybe for you, and you're probably not alone, Cake. I think this is probably true for a lot of people. It's true for me, I think, on some level too. Just as most of us need to learn to increase our tolerance for discomfort, for pain. Most of us aren't very, you know, you come to meditation, like, oh, it's hard to sit still. I'm uncomfortable. And then you see like, oh, actually, I can sit here and be uncomfortable. Oh, I can have more tolerance and acceptance of unpleasant emotions. Likewise, oh, happiness is hard to tolerate. It feels untrustworthy, or, you know, oh, I can increase my tolerance for happiness. I can increase my tolerance for joy, rather than I need to live without it. The last thing that I'll say to your question is that when I say joy, I would include that the parts that you do like. Not joy just as this big blissed out massive thing, but just when you're kind of having fun and joking with the homies, that's joyous, right? Include that as part of the definition of the 10,000 joys. Not just those big overwhelming ones, but just the like, I'm pretty happy and this is pretty fun and this is a fucking great band or whatever is bringing me joy. Also include that. Or I'm meditating and I'm not hating it and I'm kind of comfortable, and include that. So make it a big continuum on the scale of not unpleasant, slightly pleasant, feels pretty good, feels really good, feels a little too fucking good, right? All on the whole scale. Yeah. I hope that was somewhat useful. Doug, you can jump in. Unmute.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. And first time I'm asking a question in this particular setting. Appreciate your all your efforts and what you're doing for all of us today. I just wanted to comment on, and again, my pronunciation is not very good with these Buddhist principles. There's a principle of vijja, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then vimutti, and they're kind of real. From my reading of this particular text and just my own observation and kind of sense of self-discovery, it's kind of this insight or this kind of appreciation of the path or a path that you're on. I presume that because of the term, it's the Buddhist path. But I'm wondering if you can kind of expound on that a little bit. You know, in terms of my own reading, they're pretty much interchangeable. One is maybe an adjective and the other one is maybe the verb. You know, I don't really know. Yeah. But it's something that has kind of intrigued me the last 3 or 4 days as I've been reading and kind of doing my own self-study. So I was wondering if you can expound on that.
I can try. I forget what vimutti is defined as. Jeff, do you know what vimutti is defined as? Vijja means wisdom. I bet Jeff's looking it up for me right now, aren't you? Maybe.
Sorry, Teach. I'm not. I don't
You
know.
vimutti? Anybody know what
Clearly enough.
vimutti, the definition is? It's a Pali word. I don't actually know what the definition. I don't remember.
Well, according to the text that I'm reading, and I'm kind of reading mindfulness with breathing
Uh-huh.
by Buddhasa. Again, I'm gonna totally mispronounce this, but Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, which is I'm going through it like the second time in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
According to Vimutti, or Vimutti, is the insight knowledge of fruition.
Okay.
Allah,
Like an enlightenment
I
insight.
can't pronounce that.
Yeah, and
The
Vijja is
result
wisdom.
of the path having done its work of clearing away, oh God, I can't pronounce that word, avijja, I believe.
Avijja, which is ignorance.
Right,
Vijja is wisdom. Avijja is the lack of wisdom, which is ignorance.
right.
So here's what I mean. It's a it's a whole topic. Maybe I could it's a whole Dharma talk topic. But for a quickie, meditation leads to wisdom. Meditation allows us to see clearly the tendency to be ignorant and have avijja, the clinging to pleasure and the aversion to pain and the self-centeredness of the human condition. Mindfulness is the, and especially he's talking about using the 16 stages of reflection in the anapanasati, these kind of mindfulness of breathing techniques. And basically what Buddhadasa is saying, to paraphrase him, is like meditation works. And if you meditate, you'll become less and less ignorant and more wise, and you will have these insights to see clearly the impermanent nature of all things. You'll see how everything is arising and passing based on causes and conditions. And the appropriate response to pleasure is non-attached appreciation. And we'll have that humility to be like, I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at non-attached appreciation. I'm good at clinging and craving and appreciating, but also wanting to keep. So that letting go experience is something that meditation and study and conversation and wise association, good friendships lead to less and less ignorance, more and more wisdom. But it's the meditation, especially Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, who was a Thai forest tradition from southern Thailand. He was a master, and he was a meditator, and all, and his meditate and you will destroy. We have a new sign outside. I don't know if you guys saw it. Meditate and you will destroy ignorance. You will destroy clinging. You will destroy self-centeredness. You will destroy greed. And that's his message. That's where I got it from. It's the Buddha's message. Freedom from ignorance, experience of wisdom. Jeff, go.
Love me some Buddhadasa.
Yeah.
About humor, do you think that we just didn't get it? It seems like there's some stuff that maybe wasn't what we think of as humor, but and I know this predates Buddha, but I was thinking about the story of the blind man and the elephant. It's so clever that there's a lot of stories like that I go, maybe we just didn't quite get the joke. That and our more contemporary teachers, Buddhadasa and Ajahn Chah, used humor a lot. But I wondered if, I know you're talking about the Buddhist teachings, if humor was either weeded out or we just didn't get the jokes back then,
Yeah. Some scholars have said that to me. Some people that really know the Pali language and the scriptures, and they'll be like, actually, if you read it, you'll see that actually he was kind of teasing, or there was a little bit of humor in some of this when he used the analogy of the goldsmith and I'm like, it's just not funny. If those were jokes, they're bad. Maybe also my immature sense of humor. It was too lofty. I don't know. Jeff is talking about the example of that's assigned to the Buddha often, which is that we are like blind people touching different parts of an elephant, and we're all on different sides. And somebody has the trunk and says, an elephant's like this. It's this long, this is what an elephant is. And then somebody's at the tail and they're grabbing that and they're like, no, this is what an elephant is, because we can't see the whole picture. And we're only seeing that part that we're touching. And a part of awakening is no longer being blind and zooming out and seeing all of reality as it is, rather than just, a bunch of blind people touching different parts of an elephant. It's like, is that a joke? Okay, maybe that's a joke. Haha, you touched the elephant. I don't know. Please.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. So when you were mentioning how it's easier for us to access suffering rather than joy, it seems like as a capitalist culture, we're kind of applying for that. Like you'll be happy if you get this product, whatever. Or the news cycle. It's like fear mongering, social media too. Unless you train your algorithm to give you nothing but cat videos, I guess.
Which are the best joy.
The it's not consistent, fine. Each time it's very confident that fear mongering. The challenge I had during the meditation was giving joy to the others, and then knowing that the others, a lot of them are manipulated by some people.
Mhm.
So then it was like those people then, fuck those people. I'm not giving them joy. Like, I don't know how to work with that.
I mean, we could track back every confused person to, painful experiences in their life and confused conditioning that they had. Nobody volitionally chooses to be ignorant and volitionally chooses to be like, I'm going to be the oppressor and I'm going to be the ignorant and I'm going to be the greedy fearmonger or whatever it is. Out of compassion, out of wisdom, we can track back like, oh, this confusion has causes and conditions. Cultural, family, historical. So there's an encouragement to develop compassion even for our enemies. And that in itself is a tall order, to be like, oh, and then you can be like, okay, well, I can have some understanding that, Trump is a very confused, suffering person, and I can maybe touch that with some empathy, some compassion, possibly some forgiveness for that pretty clear pained, ignorance that as an example, as a timely example. My father, coming from a different generation, said that when he was exploring these practices and was told that he had to have compassion for all living beings, as a Jew, he said, how am I going to ever have compassion for Hitler? How am I ever going to feel any sort of empathy and that he found his way with seeing, sometimes when we track back our enemies to their childhood and see them as possibly, abused or suffering children, and then that became confused and reacted to their pain in such an unskillful way that they spilled it on the world, which is probably mostly, more often than not, the case. And so then you can track back and be like, well, of course, what's happening isn't okay, but I could empathize with the pain that led to this greed and megalomania and narcissism and confusion. Now, I find it a little bit easier to have compassion for my enemies than appreciation. And I know that that's where the question was coming from. It is hard to be like, and may you be happy. Oh, fuck. May you be happy? And it's why I set it up with, we're only wishing for happiness from wholesome sources. Not may you like get a free pass. And it's where the equanimity teaching comes in of like, Everyone's got their karma. Nobody's getting away with anything. Nobody just gets happiness for, a pass. Whatever unskillful actions you've done, you own those. And may you heal. May you do what needs to be done to get free so that you could be happy, so that you could be free from suffering enough to experience joy. For no matter how much harm you've caused. There's the example, maybe I'll end with this. It's my favorite one. And it's the most obvious one from the Buddha's life, where there was a serial killer. I don't know if you've heard about Angulimala. Angulimala was it's a longer story where he was a spiritual guy who had a guru, and then his guru was jealous of him and said, you need to go out and murder all of these people, and every time you kill somebody, cut off one of their fingers and make me a mala, the Buddhist beads, or we call them mala. So make 108, kill 108 people and then come back. And there's a bigger backstory, and it's like, well, why the fuck would the guru say that? The guru was jealous. There was some confusion, some ignorance. Anyways, this guy goes out and he starts murdering people, cutting their finger after he kills them, cutting their fingers off. And then he was just about done. He'd killed 107 people. He needed one more finger. And he thought in his mind, well, everyone's afraid of me now. They know I'm a serial killer. Everywhere I go, they run away from me. But there's one person in this world that probably won't run away from me, and that's my mom. And so I'm going to go kill my mom and get her finger and be done with my 108 finger mala. And right around then, as that thought arose in his mind, the Buddha was in the neighborhood, and he met the Buddha. This is one of those stories that's maybe true, maybe not, but it's a story, Buddha's story. And anyways, he met the Buddha, and they had this exchange, and he became a Buddhist, and he was able to work through the rest of his life owning all of that karma. And the Buddha accepted him into the Sangha and said, yeah, if you're willing to practice nonviolence and live by these precepts and, meditate and live this renunciate life, I can help you heal no matter what you've done. No matter how confused you've become, I can help you heal. And even though the Buddha had that sort of compassion and openness to this murderer, the rest of the society didn't. And it was actually quite, the Buddha got attacked a lot by the kings and the people who were like, dude, you're harboring a fugitive. And he said, well, he's part of the Sangha now. And anyways, Angulimala lived his life out. And it said that, he was beaten regularly when he went into the villages, and all kinds of terrible things were happening to him. And he'd go to the Buddha and he'd say, like, I'm trying to purify my karma. I'm trying to take responsibility for my confusion. But I'm also, my body's getting just beaten, and I might not live to be able to continue to meditate and develop wisdom and free myself from this ignorance. And the Buddha every time would just say, you need to bear it. This is your karma. You obviously created this karma in this lifetime. And the story goes that towards the end of his life, he was able to wake up and attain nirvana and be free from ignorance and confusion. Even with that karma, he could get free. Now, this is a wonderful story because it kind of lowers the bar for all of us who think, like, I've done a lot of bad shit. I don't know if I can purify my karma. I've been real selfish. It kind of says, like, no, anybody can do it, no matter what you've done in this life. And it also just shows that kind of, the Buddha had that kind of compassion for no matter how confused you've been. You're redeemable. Redemption is possible. Now, it's one of those stories where, yeah, sure, but most of our enemies and the kind of what you're talking about, they're not seeking redemption. They're married to their ignorance. They're married to their confusion. And it's not realistic for us to think that all of a sudden people are going to turn around and wake up. It's rare to turn around and wake up. And so it becomes our practice. How much compassion can I have? How much wisdom can I have? And how much can I also allow my heart appreciate the joy that does exist in the world? and not get so bogged down, because the ignorance is so blatant and so obvious. And the last comment that I'll make is, you said, in the capitalist modern, I think, I could be wrong, I don't know, but I think, my opinion, my view is the human condition of greed created capitalism, and not capitalism is creating greed in people. Now it's a feedback loop, but it's, it's the human condition is one of selfishness and self-centeredness and fear, and it has created all of these religions and all of these political systems, and none of them work very well for political systems. And capitalism doesn't work very well, especially when it's unbridled, uncapped, humans are going to fuck it all up, as we've done with most religions, including Buddhism. Get greed in there. I was talking shit earlier about a mutual friend who used to be a colleague, and they're like, oh yeah, we just did this. He was a great teacher. I was like, yeah, that guy stole like $500,000 from my nonprofit. It's like, even in spiritual communities, like greed and hatred and power happens. So we're not exempt either. But we got to look for the joy. And I'm sorry for making you laugh like fools. I made videos and I'm going to blackmail you later. Just kidding. You like it. We'll leave it there for tonight. I often do this where I do a series of teachings, the Brahma Viharas, these 4 heart qualities. And then afterwards, I'm like, I should have started with forgiveness. Because really, in order to experience loving kindness, we have to forgive each other. We have to forgive ourselves. Forgiveness and compassion go hand in hand. And to really have a heart that's easy to joy, that's quick to appreciation, we got to get rid of the resentments that are blocking that easy connection with appreciation and joy. So next week, I'm going to do forgiveness, which is what I probably should have started before this series, but we'll just follow up the heart qualities with the heart training of forgiveness, and we'll do that next week. Hope you join me for it. Your homework this week is, as you walk around through your life, look for opportunities to appreciate people. Consider actually expressing appreciation to some people that you're grateful for that you haven't said it to recently. And just be that weirdo that's like, hey, bro, just calling to say, appreciate you. Just be that person. Hey, play with that in your life this week, and look for, when you see somebody on the street that looks happy, be like, oh man, I'm fucking happy. Fuck yeah. Consider that as a practice, and see you next week, hopefully. Class is done by donation. Please be generous. Suggested donation is $25. Give more if you can give more. If you can't afford a $25 donation, give whatever feels appropriate to you. Everyone's welcome. There's a 5-day retreat in May. Registration is open out at Joshua Tree, May 13th through 18th, I believe. Hope you join me for that. I'm going to do an Against the Stream pilgrimage trip to Sri Lanka in November. I'm about 90% done scheduling it. I've got a bunch of hotels. We're going to spend the first few days on a beach where we're going to have some sort of like jet lag beach surfing meditation. Just good surf in Sri Lanka. I don't know if you know this, but we're going to have a whole hotel to ourselves on the beach, and then we're going to go. The second night, I booked this place that's in an elephant sanctuary where the elephants like come up to the hotel and the pool and stuff that you're in. And so we're going to have that experience. And then we're going to spend some days visiting temples and caves and doing all the cool Buddhist tourist shit. We'll have a few days of that. And then the last few days, we're going to do some silent meditation retreat time. So that registration is going to open soon. Sri Lanka Against the Stream trip, November, probably something like the 10th through 23rd or something like that, so that we get back right before Thanksgiving, so that you can go get all spiritual and then go to your families and suffer with jet lag. May any goodness that comes from our practice be shared with each other. May we all experience more joy, more success, more freedom in our lives. And together, may we create a positive change on this planet. One last thing, or two last things I forgot. One is I have a day long on February 2nd, which is 2 weeks on Sunday, that I'm offering here. It's a day of sitting meditation and walking meditation. I'm doing it online for Refuge Recovery, for the Buddhist recovery, but everyone's welcome. It's just going to be sitting and walking meditation. Even if you're not in recovery, you're welcome to come. I prefer if at least some people are here in the room with me. We have like probably 50 people joining us on Zoom, but I don't like just talking to the computer. I really appreciate it when people are sitting with me. So join me for that day long. If you haven't registered yet, you can through refugerecovery.org. You can come for free. You can give $25. You can give $50. If you can afford it, give some money to help support the nonprofits that I'm trying to support. But join for that day of sitting and walking practice.
It's next Sunday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. All right. Next Sunday, a week from yesterday. Here, next Sunday. Lastly, I want to just take a moment. I know I'm going over, but to offer merit and just good wishes for and compassion to my wife and her brother and father. Her mother passed away on Saturday, and so just taking a moment to send merit and good wishes and love and compassion to the Maris Valdivia family and all of the people affected by Seal's passing. Thank you. See you next time.